I can do an entire transmission on 5G, and I want people to know my stand on this, is that I personally am pro 5G if it's rolled out by the government, which our government is never going to do. It's the Chinese communists who are going to roll out their 5G. And the best analogy for this, so that people understand this, because this is the point, Alex, is that all of the conspiracy theorists are linking coronavirus with 5G. And they're saying, oh, all of this is being done so they can roll out 5G. Okay, first off, what happened was a prospectus. A prospectus was presented to Donald Trump to roll out 5G by the government. And what they were telling him was that since he was so afraid, since everybody was so afraid that the Chinese, with Huawei, the state-backed 5G giant, was going to roll over the world, they said our government has to have our own 5G plan in which we roll out 5G that's equivalent to what Harry Truman did with the superhighway system. Now, just to put this into perspective for people, so people understand what the fuck was going on, Alex has got to be familiar with my expositions on World War II. And, of course, Harry Truman was president at a time that Japan and the United States were still legally at war. The war with the Thousand-Year Reich has never ended officially. And so what you have is a situation where Trump was very concerned about that and about potential conflicts with his former allies. Truman, Harry Truman. Did I say Trump or Harry Truman just now?
Truman.
Truman, good.
Truman.
Good. Whichever one. The two teeny guys. But Truman. I meant Truman. So what Truman was doing was consulting with his Strategic Air Command and all the rest of these assholes, and so many of them who were later on ripping off a far less cynical man than himself, John F. Kennedy, who was vulnerable and fell prey to their bullshit. But Truman wasn't that kind of sucker, and Truman knew that America was in deep trouble. And what he said was, our cities are wide open to attack by any number of forces. And what he said was that we need something to do about the ability to contain the havoc in the cities, to reestablish order, and the ability.
Someone was telling me that the major freeways are strategically placed to cut the ghettos in half.
Yes.
And to just kind of control the ghettos.
Yes.
Yes. I know in Sacramento there's a place called Del Paso Heights, but it has a freeway going right through it and the railway too.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like they put it in the right place to kind of keep those, basically separate those communities from themselves, but also to keep them in check if they need to bring tanks down to put those communities down in a riot or something.
Yeah, that was almost collateral. It was almost collateral to what was the intention. It was more like how would I call it? It was like more of a result than a plan. That was more of a result than a plan. What had happened was that the initial problem was the nukes are going to fly, and when the nukes do fly and major cities are going to get hit, at that time, they took civil defense seriously. And this is what I tell people when I'm talking about health security, when I'm talking about the disease, that this is like war. They keep comparing this to war. Okay, then what we're talking about is not some bullshit homeland security. It's like you see the commercial for the people who are advertising various software security, and they say, it's not security, it's defense. They're taking all this pride that they're a defense contractor. Well, this is the reality of this pandemic. This is not security. It's not in the field of homeland security. This is fucking defense. And back in the day, we had what was called civil defense. And people were drilled to go into bomb shelters. So the idea was, when the nukes fly, a number of Americans will make it into bomb shelters, and a number will not. And what are we going to do to get rid of the bodies so that the people who emerge will not be faced with all of these cadavers, which will be resulting in plague that will kill the people who emerge from the bunkers, if not immediately within weeks. So the whole idea, that was the solution, was the American highway system. The superhighway system was meant so that they could get troops into the cities to make certain that everybody got into the bunkers, or make certain that they helped to get the people out, extricate them, clear the rubble away from the entrances, etc., and clear the bodies. And then the highway systems would enable the taking of the bodies to mass incinerators where they could be destroyed and prevent plague. So it was this very ghoulish but very necessary situation. And its consideration that resulted in the superhighway system, which was a benefit to all Americans in that they were able to finally get their cars and travel anywhere in the United States. the collateral damage was that it destroyed entire communities within these cities that would otherwise have had far more of a coherent identity, exactly as you say. Like growing up on the wrong side of the tracks, both sides of the tracks underneath the superhighway are the wrong side of the tracks. It's just it just basically creates a situation in which everybody in its area is living like a troll, meaning like a bridge dweller under a bridge. That's where the ghettos are. They built them through the ghettos because, of course, now the white people or the wealthy communities want the superhighway going through their communities, right? So they just built it through the easiest paths of least resistance, which was through all the major ghettos. This is why all superhighways have a ghetto underneath them, and so this is why in the city areas. So my point.
You were relating this to Trump and the 5G, though.
Yeah, that's right. So a prospectus was delivered to Trump saying that, like Harry Truman, we're confronted with a situation where our world's going to end, and it's going to end in such a way that civilization as we know it will end, and our response is to provide infrastructure. Now, this would have been the smartest thing in the world to fucking do, because this would have it would have been manifest of a maturation of technology. It would have made it far less trollable. It would have made it basically with a government control of 5G, then the government would make it accessible to the public. It would have to, of necessity, because the taxpayers are paying for it, whereas the private corporations in charge of it. Imagine if Harry Truman contracted out to private contractors to build the superhighway system connecting the entire United States. Right. You wouldn't have anything. You wouldn't have anything.
Have shit. Yeah.
You wouldn't have shit. Basically, these guys would say, okay, to use our highway, you got to pay the toll. It'd be like what they used to call...
Yeah, it'd be like bandits.
Well, they used to call them highwaymen.
Highwaymen.
And they used to call that practice highway robbery. That's what it was called. This is what you have with 5G today. You've got all the private corporations, and they lobbied Trump, and they said, oh, you're a businessman. You can't fuck up capitalism. That'll destroy Verizon and AT&T and all us good guys, your buddies. And so he said, oh, fuck the 5G. And that was the end of it. So it was one single prospectus, and yet all the public is scared to death of 5G. And you know who's promoting it? The corporations. The corporations are saying, oh, don't let the government roll out 5G. And this way, they've got it lock, stock, and barrel, so when they lay it out, they rape you up the ass.